And we are live.
It's funny because when you said like, "Oh, we're ready to go live," I could have sworn you said, "And the Emperor," and I'm like,
And the
"Wait, the
Emperor?
Emperor's here?" Yeah, we're about to talk Dune tonight. A lot of Dune stuff. Like for those who don't know, I am a huge fan of Dune. Like it was my childhood, so to speak. It was a pillar of my childhood. But I've mentioned this in the past before. It's to the point when me and my one of my then best friends wrote what is technically considered Dune fan fiction. And honestly, I'm gonna come out and start the show with this. As far as I'm concerned, anything that's not written by Frank Herbert is Dune fan fiction because Brian Herbert is a shill. Oh, wait, actually, let me back up. Let me back up. I think Brian Herbert is a shill. And while I do actually appreciate Kevin J. Anderson's writing, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, he's the only one writing those new novels. As much as I do like Kevin J. Anderson's other writing, it's pulp. He's a pulp science fiction author. That's my statement on. But we're mainly talking about the movies tonight. So
Yeah,
I'm
let's talk about
Manuel.
these movies.
I'm Manuel. I'm Manuel Muad'Dib, and I'm just kidding.
And I'm
And
Josh from Kotaku Network.
yes. And JD's there too. JD will probably join in a bit because wait, I didn't ask you before we started. Have you read? I assume you have. I think we've talked about this before. Have you read the book, Josh?
No, I have not
Okay.
read the book. I did not know that there were movies before Dune, and a lot of people were like, "You gotta watch Dune. It is the most amazing, spectacular thing." And then after that, I got breakdowns about what was supposed to happen in books, then what is actually supposed to happen long term wise. And now I'm just here saying like, okay, in terms of scope, these are pretty big movies. I can understand why they would break this down to two, but I almost feel that as someone who has not read the books, the level of world building to get to, let me just say, in total at this point, 4 hours to get
Alright.
to the 1 hour
Oh, I see what
that
you're saying.
was advertised in Dune 1. It's crazy.
No, it's funny you say that because I actually I feel like we've been Mandela affected in real time because it's hard to go back in time because I swear to God. So I swear to fucking Shai Hulud. I meant to say that. I said God for some reason. I swear to Shai Hulud that the
As it is written.
marketing the marketing for Dune 1 did
Mhm.
not mention it was part 1. Period. It like now if you go watch it on streaming, it's called Doom Part 1.
Uh,
Now if you
Manuel,
huh?
I watched it when it came out on Max. It did have part one in the opening. It didn't have it in much of the advertising, but it at least had it
That's what
on
I'm saying.
screen.
That's what I'm saying though. Uh okay, I don't think was it one of those movies that launched on Max and in theaters? I
Yes.
don't remember if that was one of them. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so I guess that we'll give it a little bit of leeway because it was on streaming, even though the Mr. DV, whose name I can't pronounce, I he's one of those directors who like came out on record to say, "Don't watch it at streaming. I made this to be in theaters." Kind of, he's like Christopher Nolan Part 2 or whatever. Um,
He's
but
French Christopher Nolan.
yes, but I do think that that the marketing was very misleading. I didn't know, and I've been following the movie. I remember thinking how weird it was. I'm like, are they gonna just cut out like Fade Rotha? Are they gonna just cut out like all these other characters? They weren't listed in the cast, and I was like, that's weird. That's unusual. By the way, even if they did eventually cast Fade Rotha, it is unusual he wasn't in the first movie at all.
Mhm.
He is in that part of the book for the record. Like part of me wonders if they weren't going to include his character and they decided to by the second half. Like maybe they were gonna like just not include it because like um I don't want to get into like what the book did differently this early on, but in the book, Alia is born. Alia is walking around. Alia kills the Baron. uh and shit like that. So part of me wonders if maybe they were gonna just like condense all that always and like put like Beast Reborn against Paul in that knife fight at the end. Which, by the way, spoiler alert, by the way, if you've never seen it, if you haven't seen it yet, but I don't care. The book, it's the same as the book. By the way, spoilers for everything. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm
Spoilers
gotta
for
remember.
everything.
Spoilers for everything Dune.
But I'm going to talk about the biggest problem I had with the characterization in a minute, or later on actually. But first off, I think that Fade Rotha fight was terrible. It made Timothy Chalamet, or let me phrase that, it made Paul look like he was not a very good fighter. He barely won that, and he got stabbed like 3 times. In case you're wondering how it happened, and maybe JD remembers this from the movie, because the David Lynch one did it correctly. Fade Rotha was always a dirty fighter. So when he was fighting, he was actually kind of it was kind of evenly matched, and then he tried to like pull a poison needle out of his fucking belt, and Paul still won. So it's kind of like it was not a barely, almost even match. It was like Paul was just that good. And I do get maybe they wanted to like break down his character a little. I don't know. There's a lot of things weird with it. So, I'm curious, as somebody, and this goes for either you or JD Josh, as somebody who has not read the books, is there any elements of the story that confused you?
I will say it's not that I was confused. There were just a lot of very fantastical elements that I think Dune needs to like give credit to the MCU for like allowing people to be like, oh, let's just get full into like sci-fi versus like we have to like milk down the sci-fi because literally and it's not to say we haven't had movies where crazy shit happens. I still say probably the craziest shit I've seen is in horror. So I would say fucking Freddy Krueger telling somebody that a child of his is buried in him and in her, and that will also cause crazy ass nightmare shit to like occur. So it's not like it's like necessarily crazy. Everything is straightforward. I think the only thing is just due to the sheer amount of scope and size, it really rests on everything. And I think that is pretty ambitious. I like that everything is, you could tell a lot of this is practical stage design versus just CGI. But in terms of the actual plot and finding any of that to be confusing, not necessarily. I just think it just takes a long time, and the only thing that you need to keep up with is just individual bits of the world. Otherwise, I say it's good. I don't think it's hard to follow. I think it's just a lot. You really spend a lot of time in this whole like planet, and it just feels long. I'll just say that. Like my only complaint about the movies is that it really feels long. It feels like you get a lot of action like at the very beginning of Dune, or relatively in the beginning of the first part of Dune, and then like you end up waiting quite a bit because a lot of that is just very much like religious talk, and it's just kind of like, yeah, this is kind of I don't know. I could also feel that in terms of what they did. The main character feels more like your typical like anime soft boy, not really sure what they're doing with it and just riding along the coast, versus your typical anime I am the badass and I know how to do everything. But at the same time, I figure that when they make them do everything and new stuff, they make them slightly autistic, which is a little bit off. But that's just me making fun of Outnow Zero, because Outnow Zero is also a sci-fi based anime that I think is both god awful and an inferior copy to Code Geass. Because what the honest shit, people, like, what the fuck is Outnow Zero? Like, this is a thing. No one sees the comparisons.
Oh no, I think everybody saw the comparisons. Between Noah and Code Geass when it's coming out, because I was having those discussions. Also, Slain, you're an idiot.
It's funny you mentioned like some of Paul's characterization, because I don't think this is a problem. It's a different take on the character. So I'm not going to complain about this. Like, oh, they fucked this character, because I think there was a bit of it that you could feel later on, and I think that he's like that our director dude is like kind of in, or whoever the fuck actually wrote it is probably imbuing some of that from later on. But in the book, in case you're curious, Paul was never like this like he was
Is he like
never really
unsure?
against. No, he wasn't. He was unsure, but he was never against all this stuff. I think that was a very interesting point. Like this whole dichotomy between the fundamentalist Southerners and like these wildly atheist people that Chani's a part of or whatever. Like none of that existed in Dune. Like they were all like okay. First of all, I was mentioning this before we went live. I think that it's funny you bring this up. Maybe they didn't bring it up because it would just take too long to set up. But the whole Dune universe is very, 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 very religious. Like at least it starts that way. Everyone is like super, super space Catholic. It's called. I'm actually not making it up. It's called the Orange Catholic. I think they're still called. Like, I don't know what they call the religion, but the Bible they read is the Orange Catholic Bible. And by the way, the orange has to do with the person who wrote it, not like it's like Orange Catholic. But so like they're super religious, and their modern universe is set up. Did you guys wonder why they only fought with swords? Because they never explained that. I feel, even though that is an in-universe reason.
Oh,
Oh
I
no,
think
I
I
thought
remember
that's
that.
just another way of doing. Oh wait, my bad. JD, go first.
Yeah. I think that's. I've seen the '80s movie, so I think it's explained there. Like they have the shields that deflect like fast-moving weaponry, so they have to fight slow with like handheld weaponry.
Yes, partly. Also, the reason why there's no lasers in space is because if you
Because
fire a laser into a shield, it creates an atomic thing that will blow up both the laser and the shield and like a
cause a
few
nuclear
blocks.
explosion.
Yes.
I actually knew that part, if only because I heard about it from because the makers of like Dune, Sands of Arrakis, an upcoming survival game. I'll have the actual
Oh,
title up here. Asked the Herbert Estate if they could change that just so players didn't keep blowing each other up in nuclear explosions.
it's honestly, I think that kind of takes away a lot from it when they do, because I think that the movie kind of like I don't want to repeat this because I wish I hadn't watched this one. I watched this one YouTube. I can't remember the name right now. It's just I watched this one random video, and they brought it up, and like I'm only bringing it up in case I accidentally use some of the words that I'm really conscious of like potentially plagiarizing. I'll have the name for JD later on. I forget who the fuck it was, but they had a really good point about like the whole scene where they showed like the people. By the way, they're called ornithopters, those like insect like helicopter things.
Mhm.
How they were shooting all the Fremen from the ground, and even later on when they're attacking Siege Taber, they're using all these guns. And the obvious question is, why the fuck don't they always use those? And you know why? Because those weren't in the book. That's a plot hole the movie created. That's a plot hole the movie created. Nobody has guns like that. Because normal bullets would bounce off of any shield, so they're useless.
Mhm.
And then laser guns would like blow up everyone. Like no one wins. And also, not only would they blow up everyone, there's like space laws, and like you would be exiled if you did that. Like, that would be the end of your existence. So yeah, you're fucked. So but anyways, my
Uh,
point to be
When you
huh?
put, I just saw Ada J says, was it written by Jeremiah Gottwald? And I'm gonna say in my head, I'm gonna say it was written by an orange, not that it was written by an orange person. And yes, the thing I was gonna interrupt with was, yeah, Jeremiah Gottwald, the one that was codenamed Orange by Lelouch, just to throw the Britannians off.
I realize I lost my train of thought here, but the reason I read the whole universe is religious, so everyone just believes this religion, like whatever religion they're a part of, and I think that is part of what they're saying, but people don't start to realize that later. All that characterization about like, oh, this isn't my thing. The Bene Gesserit like did terrible work here. None of that was really thought of. As a matter of fact, like Jessica and Paul were like, oh, thank God the Bene Gesserit have been like, planting these seeds for like centuries. And by the way, that wasn't for Paul. They were just doing this across the universe. Like,
You see,
like
that's the one thing where I asked one of my friends because they read it, so I'm just kind of like, so these what were they called? The Jesse
the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Benny Gesserit. So they're just everywhere.
Yeah, they
Everywhere.
also, and I don't want to be this. I don't point this out because I care about the casting that much. But I
Yeah.
want to mention this too because I'm going to forget because they're not that important of a character. When they gender swapped Liet Kynes in the movie, um, the the lady who was like leader of the Fremen before. By the way, I don't think they explained that right. She was the leader of the Fremen, or he was in the book. No, I don't care that they gender swap Liet Kynes. They're not that important of a character, but I can see people jumping on that as a woke thing, which I don't think they did. Funny enough, but the reason that bothers me because Dune is filled with strong women. It is probably the only novel of its time that the female characters are the ones in power. That's the whole point of the Bene Gesserit, that they've been doing this shit for like literally for like 8,000 years. They've been doing this breeding program. They've been laying the groundwork for tons of other Messiah like complexes and other societies or whatever,
Mm.
and just controlling politics through like political marriages and shit like that. And like, I just don't think that they had to change Liet Kynes into a woman. I think that was a weird choice, just because it's just like, you're just giving people fodder. Like in my head, I don't even be like, well, just do it if you want. Do you really? I don't know. Anyways, I'm just leaving it there. Anyway, this is a super religious area. A super religious universe. I don't understand why they had to make Paul like super doubtful, and they had to make some of the Fremen like like. And what's also weird is that like it's the kids. It's like Chani and her like teenage friends who are like, yeah, we don't believe in religion. And I'm gonna go right into it. They fucking ruined Chani in this book. I mean, this movie.
Hmm.
Do
The second half.
yeah, were you guys satisfied with her character arc in the movie? Because I'm curious what you think of that. Like, having not read the book.
Is that Zendaya's character?
Yes.
Yes,
I really felt like she would do more.
I felt like that was so forced. Like it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is causing this? When she's like, when they're all like starting to follow Paul, and she's like, no, and she refuses to bow to him at any point. And I'm like, oh my god.
It really felt like there was tension and that was just dissolved, but when they dissolved, like, not no wait, lack of sexual tension, and then it just shows up, and then it's explained as, oh, we just secretly were always into each other, and I'm like,
Oh, that no, I mean, well, that part, like, it's funny because in the book, I think it
Mhm.
implies that she was dreaming of him too.
Mhm.
But um, I am kind of glad they cut this out. But in Dune, when the Reverend Mother takes the
Yes,
water of life,
yes,
what's supposed to happen is she takes the water of life and she
Mhm.
spits it back out, like she regurgitates it like a baby
Mhm.
mother feeding, like a mother feeding baby chicks. I mean to say, and the
Mhm.
shit she spits out is like the water of life, not poisoned, and everyone drinks that, and they all have a sex orgy. Yeah, I'm not making it up. This happens in the book.
What?
Yes, and that's where actually where Chani and Paul like start fucking, and like, and I think the implication was that they weren't so much
Wow.
into each other that it was kind of like, because once again in the Fremen society, women outnumber the men because like the men like always go off to war and die,
Mhm.
and like there's this whole dichotomy thing where even though the men are technically like they're it's only an all male council, but they always have to
Mhm.
ask their reverend mother for advice. They always have to follow what she says, and the women always choose like their partners. So it's kind of implied that Chani would just like, Paul thinks he's like a good lay for this random orgy, and then they fall in love. So
There is
um
so much lore. Oh my
and
god.
Chani is like his most like loyal supporter. I don't know where the fuck whoever the fuck wrote her character like that decided to make her into like this into fucking the some fucking 2010s YouTuber who's like religion sucks, and like they control, this is how they control us and all this other stuff, which I get why she's saying that, but it seems out of okay, it's not that it's out of character. I guess it's out of character for Chani from the books, but like how the fuck are they gonna have kids later on? It feels like they broke up at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
For the record, the last line of the book is from Jessica, and she's explaining to Chani to not worry that Paul's like getting married to like the princess, but that just like how she was the Duke's true wife. By the way, I don't think they explained that they were never married. She was his concubine.
Hmm.
That Paul will always treat her like his true wife, which he does, and that's the way the book ends. And I'm like, I don't know why the movie had to literally have her like get pissed and leave and ride a worm off to the sunset.
I think
But
they established the character to be different, like at that point.
like different to the point where she's just a new character, like a weirdly new character. But like I said, how the hell are they gonna have kids? Are they not? Is he gonna? Is the director just not gonna have them have kids later on? Because Paul has children. One of his child becomes the worm, the meme, which like, would you still love me if I was a worm? But yeah, JD, what were your thoughts on Chani? Did you think they fucked up her character in part two?
I didn't remember enough about her character from my seeing of the 1980 movie or 1980s movie. Uh, I think it's an interesting take as she's like the only one who at that point is not believing the hype, which is probably would have been a good thing had more people done that. Just because we see where it's going to lead. He talks about how there's going to be billions of people dead from following him in the civil war he's essentially caused with all his actions.
Oh yeah, and I should also mention like they did change that a bit too. Like the Landsrat didn't just like the Landsrat actually agreed with them. They're like, oh shit, you control the spice. I guess we'll just bow down. But the Emperor kept fighting. To let the Emperor live, and like, and then not only that, but like, it's implied that Paul just couldn't control the Fremen after a while. That it wasn't so much that he was all like sending them against his enemies, as much as he was just like, they destroyed another planet last week. What can we do? Kind of thing. Like, um, yeah, I just like they really time compressed this movie, by the way. It's just like it blew my mind. I kept waiting for the time skip because I think the first novel takes place over like 5 years.
Mhm.
So I kept waiting for the time skip and it just never happened. They
Wait,
just all happened back to back.
5 years? Then how in the world does the sister do the killing if she's only like 4 years
She's
old?
5. That's exactly why. Okay. They didn't explain this at all. It's funny. That's what I was actually hinting at because I watched it with a friend. First of all, I'm surprised they included the character of Margot Fenring. She's the one that fucks Fade Routha to get the baby,
Mm-hmm.
which happens in the book for the record. But her character is so tiny that the person I watched the movie with thought that was the princess because she was confused. And she actually thought
Mm.
that the whole time. I was telling her later, I was like, oh, I'm so surprised they included Margot Fenring. It's like, who was that? And I'm like, the one that fucked Fade Routha. And she's like, that wasn't the princess? And I don't know either actress. So I don't know. Like, they looked different enough to me, though. But, like, she was confused by it. And I thought that was funny. I was just like, no, that was just a random character from the book that they should not have brought in because it's just going to confuse people like you.
I don't think she looks
Oh,
anything like Florence Pugh.
there you go. I'm like, I'm pretty sure one of them has to be famous.
Pretty sure one of them's blonde and one of them isn't. Yeah, I think Florence Pugh is mostly brunette with maybe a bit of blonde in it, just so she looks more like Christopher Walken.
Oh my. Okay. First of all, what were we talking about before I start talking about Margot Henry? Margot Fenring.
I think you're still on Chani.
Was I?
I think so.
Well,
That was like
anyways.
one of the things that you were on before you like asked us what our thoughts were.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I switched thoughts were because the original movie. But I just think they did her character wrong. Like it's weird that they made her so almost the opposite of like how do I like if they're super obsessive religious, she feels almost obsessively anti-religious. Like I don't know. Like her problem didn't seem like she doesn't see any of Paul's visions. Her problem just seems to be like they're following religion and that's how they control people and this is all like her mother's doing and whatever. By the way, Jessica and Chani love each other in the novel. I just find like all the
Oh,
characterizations are off.
okay. Like get along well or love in the other sense.
No, get along well. Like
Okay.
Oh,
um, Jessica, Jessica. Oh, I remember the Alia thing. I'll get to that in a second. So Jessica actually doesn't like Chani at first because she wants Paul to marry. She's like, you can't marry her. Like you have to marry someone highborn. And eventually, eventually Chani wins her over, and they become like homies, like like really close because of similar situations. But the Alia thing, I don't think they ever properly explained that because
Yeah.
when the Reverend Mother like takes the water of life, they awaken to like every other. She mentions that every other Reverend Mother that ever existed is in her brain now. But because Alia was inside of her, she awoken to that. She awakened to that too. So when she's born, she can already talk. She can already I don't think they basically. Have you ever seen Twilight, Breaking Dawn?
Part
Remember
two.
Renesmee?
Oh,
She basically becomes Renesmee, and I'm not gonna lie. Part of me wanted to see that because I'm like, oh, they're gonna make that so terrible, and everyone's gonna compare it to Renesmee. Because she was in the movie. You don't remember her in the David Lynch movie? I think they aged her up a bit, but she's supposed to be 4 years old. She talks like she's like not just an adult, but like she's a super smart, well-known, well-read adult, and everyone's scared of her because they know something's wrong with her. And there's a point when the Sardaukar kill Paul's son. By the way, Paul has a son in the book. Early on, they kill Paul's son, and she's so scared to tell Paul that his son was killed while she was supposed to be watching him, that she let herself get captured by the Baron. And then when she's with the Baron, she has her own Gom Jabbar, and she stabs the Baron with it. And that was a much cooler way to kill the Baron, which I feel like the new movie. Who the fuck kills him? Paul?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
He says, "Hi, Grandpa." Stabbed.
oh, fun fact though, I do like that they kept that line because that's what Alia says. Like Alia's all like, I forgot what she called him Grandpa. I forgot the exact line. It's like like she's like, oh, I think she said face the Atreides Gom Jabbar Grandpa or something like that. And then she stabs him with it. But yeah, I don't know. There's this did I think it's weird they left out Alia, but I get why they did it. I also don't know why the fuck they cast Anna Taylor-Joy as Alia though, because does that mean they're gonna time skip 20 years in the next movie? Because Alia doesn't get older like that. By the way, Alia marries Duncan, Idaho.
Who at this time is currently dead.
Yes, who also is the most miscast character, in my opinion, in the entire fucking movie.
Jason Mamoa?
Yes. This feels like it's mega spoiler, but he becomes the main character in all of Dune. I don't want to mention what the last novels are about, but basically the universe kind of comes to a head where humanity's being it turns out that Paul and more especially his son Leto II we're trying to get humanity to a point where they could survive its biggest threat ever. And it turns out that Duncan, Idaho, this man who has lived thousands and thousands of years because he keeps getting reborn and reborn and reborn. Yes, it's complicated. It turns out that he is kind of the crux, not the crux, but this becomes the center of all humanity. Basically, I'm not even making this up. It gets really weird really fast. So this person who literally is meant to embody humanity's last chance in the universe is fucking played by Drago. Drago?
Yes.
Yeah, fucking Drago. I just can't get over this casting. And part of me is they had to have known. And even if Dennis, whatever the fuck his name
Denis
is, didn't know,
Villeneuve.
somebody from the I don't know how much they had to listen to them, but somebody from the Herbert estate had to been Brian Herbert himself had to been bro, you know that character is important, right? You can't just fucking give it to and I'm not one to complain about things like this, but he doesn't even look the way Duncan Idaho is described in the book. He looks more like a Gurney Halleck, because Gurney Halleck's supposed to be this ex-smuggler guy who used to be a slave of the Harkonnen who gets a scar, and fucking Leto Atreides saves his life and he becomes loyal to him. But Duncan Idaho is a sword master from the school of Ginaz, which is basically this super elite swordmaster school. He's from a well-to-do family, and he's a wiry little sword guy, not a big hulking Aquaman. You know,
You're just gonna go through all of Jason Momoa's other parts. You want to remember the time he was Conan?
Oh God, don't remind me. Even better. I was gonna call him a big hulking barbarian, but I felt like that would just as if I was just I just do bring this Drago thing again. I forgot he was Conan. Yes, a big hulking barbarian. You're just so miscast, and and once again, I'm sure they're going to do away with this, but in the second book, he's a human computer. And I'm sure Jason Mamoa is not a stupid man. He's probably very intelligent. But can you imagine Jason Mamoa playing a human computer? Like, I can. I'll just laugh at him.
You mean it won't be like when Chris Hemsworth was like possessed or something in the
Oh,
called the Ghostbusters movie?
Oh, yes. It's just gonna be terrible. Like I just feel like that was very short sighted. Even though I will admit, if I didn't know better, I would think he was cast okay. And even knowing what I know, I still think he had a really good death scene. Like that was legit. Not only was it legit, but it was book accurate because the whole reason he gets brought back the first time is because a Sardaukar, like he killed like 20 of them, like in that little hallway, and they're so impressed they take his body back to be cloned, and then other shit
Mhm.
happens, why he ends up not becoming a Sardaukar himself. But yeah, that was the whole idea. They wanted to keep his genes alive, or his genetics alive, or whatever.
Mm.
But I don't know. I just don't like what they did with Chani. I don't like what they did with some of the religious stuff. Like I think it's just a hard see, I think part of the problem is they focused a little too much on the religious stuff. Like every other movie kind of just like said it and moved on. But this movie focused on it in all the ways, the good and the bad. Well, mostly the bad, but yeah. And I understand why they didn't use the word,
hmm
but like I don't even know if I want to say the word. Have I said the word
no, I
since we've
don't believe
been
you
live
said it
streaming?
yet, man. I don't
Okay,
think
I'm
you
not
said the
gonna
J
say
word
it.
yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it because I have a feeling that word's gonna like demonetize us immediately. But they use the J word a lot in the books. Um,
Oh, I know what word you mean.
yeah, the
It's
holy
that thing
word.
that I say when I don't want to when I tell my friend why he scammed me, and I'll say, "Bro,
No,
I
no,
feel like
no.
I
You need
got
to
No,
do
no, no,
scammed."
no,
not
no,
that
no,
one. Not that one. That one starts with a G.
no. The J word is in the holy war. J.
Oh, I thought you said G. My bad. I didn't
Oh,
know you
J.
meant the J word.
The
Okay.
holy war. J word. By the way, speaking of which, even though earlier when I was talking about like they did the gender swap with Liet Kynes and whatever, I
Mhm.
gotta call them out on something. Admittedly, some of the other movies have been bad with this too, but the Fremen are clearly meant to be Middle Eastern, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly. Why the fuck were there no Middle Eastern people in the fucking roles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Like that shocked the fuck out of me. I kept waiting when I saw. Are you serious? Are you serious? In like in the year of our Lord 2020, you're gonna cast a movie like this? I'm surprised. Like, and once again, I will admit the other movies were kind of actually the miniseries wasn't that bad with that, but I will admit that the David Lynch one was kind of bad like that.
Hmm.
But we should know better by now, and they seemed aware of it in other places. But it's just like, really? That's how you're gonna do this? I guess. Um, they also added a lot of weird shit. Like, why were there languages for everything? Why the fuck did Doctor Yue speak Mandarin?
Oh, okay, I didn't know what he was speaking. I don't think it said,
Yeah, that
but I
was
know
real.
you know
And
Chinese, so
that was real Chinese, and yes, Paul did speak really badly Chinese back to well, if I said like my Chinese if I tried, so it doesn't matter. I'm not talking shit per se. I'm just saying why the fuck did that have to happen? Uh,
Yeah.
Also, the Sardaukar did not have their own language. I don't know why they added that. Uh, they added all this. Oh, what was up with the throat singing they kept doing? Like the s-
Throat.
the throat singing.
oh,
I
Oh,
can't even
that.
do it.
we're all
Like
doing it terribly. Looks
yeah,
up some actual throat singing.
yeah. Like I'm not trying to like it's a real cultural thing, but why the fuck was the Sonic car doing it? That just felt and that felt really weird, and the whole language was kind of like that too. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to just throw in there because it's not included. That's not a thing. Also, Harkonnen didn't have their own language. I'm like, why is that? Why the fuck is every Harkonnen bald? There were some really weird David Lynchian type choices. I'm like, it's just like, is this guy also David Lynch part two? Why the hell was Irulan with all the fucking chains on her face and everything? Uh, the odd costume decisions.
Best
I don't
guess for
know.
that one was
I
there's just supposed to look
feel. Oh,
like
sorry, my bad.
like
Continue, JD. I didn't mean to interrupt.
like mid-century religious wear.
Oh, I guess it does make sense. Oh, Irulan wasn't a Bene Gesserit in the book. All that was added for some reason.
Okay, I wasn't sure if she was supposed to have been one or just tutored by them, and
Yeah,
that's kind of
she was
part of the plan.
she was tutored like everyone was, but she wasn't controlled by them and like in the sisterhood the way they showed her. Like she wouldn't be privy to plans. I thought that was weird. I'm like, of all the like, why include her in this? It like, once again, it felt like they were trying to give her the Margot Fenring stuff, but then they still put in Margot Fenring. It was all like, wait, then why the hell is Irulan still there? Also, I'm sorry. I am sure Christopher Walken, he's an amazing actor. Actually, I don't even know what he's really been in, but I'm sure he's an amazing actor and he's great. But the internet has ruined him for anyone under the age of like anything, as far as I'm concerned. I can no longer ever see him in a serious role. It's like, I am the emperor of the known whatever I can't think of what lines he actually
am
says,
the
but
emperor of the known universe.
yeah, it's like I'm like, dude. And when I saw him, because they show him earlier on before he talks, I just started laughing. It's like, this is a joke, right? I didn't know he was going to be in the movie.
Oh, you followed none of the news then.
It felt like it felt like it was a joke. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Would Michael
kidding.
would Michael Shannon have been a better choice?
Honestly, any older actor guy would have been a perfect choice. I don't know, because he is an old man, so I don't know who the fuck could have played. I don't know who's alive and active. But like,
I know. Oh, darn it! No, I just
Ian
thought about
McKellen?
the character that. Wait, what?
Ian
that one guy
McKellen, Anthony Hopkins.
yeah, Ian McKellen would have been good. Patrick Stewart would have been great because he played Gurney Halleck in the fucking David Lynch one. So that would have been a good, like, almost like full circle type thing. That actor who played Alfred in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I know he retired recently.
Michael
but
Caine.
like, yeah, he would have been a good choice. Actually, I thought of him immediately. I couldn't remember what the fuck his name was. But I also know he retired. But then again, he would have been in the movie.
What about I think he still had a recent movie. It wasn't that good, but like what's his name? Why is it not coming to me? I saw bits of that movie because my dad was watching it. Liam Neeson.
Oh, Liam Neeson.
He would have been fine too. Honestly, just Christopher Walken is too much of a meme, and like, it's not okay. Even if it wasn't the meme, he just isn't right for the role because his cadence and whatever. It's just like, has he always talked like that? I feel like he's leading into the meme now. So I'm like, you didn't always talk like that, did you? But the more I think about it, the more I actually can't think of any movie he's ever been in. Like, I'm sure I've seen one, but I don't know. Do you know?
Deer Hunter.
See, I've never.
I'm trying to remember which James Bond movie he's in.
Oh, see, none of these movies I've ever seen. I just know of him because the memes.
7 Psychopaths.
Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2.
Balls of Fury.
Oh my god.
See,
See, I remember him from Balls of Fury. That's funny you say that. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, he just is not a serious actor. I'm sorry.
He was dead serious.
Yeah.
He literally says, "What part of sudden death did you not understand?"
I just could not believe they cast him. That was ridiculous. I also had doubts of the other guy, the Disney guy, playing Fade Roth. I forget his name.
Austin Butler.
He looks so different than what I was expecting. I got over that quickly. So, and I also didn't. I felt stupid for not recognizing him, but I didn't realize that Beast for Bond was the fucking Drax. I forgot his actor name though.
Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because whenever I think of him, I think of how old he is.
Yeah.
And like, he didn't look that old in that role. Like, I'm sure they didn't de-age him. They just made him up like crazy with all the white makeup, I guess. But like, he looked, because Fade Roth is really not really young, but he's young in the novel. So I mean, in the universe, because he's fucking Fade's brother. So he's
Manuel.
Fade's brother. Ooh, like wording there.
Movies you might have seen Christopher Walken in. Pulp Fiction.
Okay, I seen him in Pulp Fiction.
Batman Returns.
Oh,
he's Max Schreck.
Was Selena Kyle's boss or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Okay. I have not seen Batman Returns since I was a child. I don't know. Like, part of my problem with Dune with the entire Dune movies, the new ones, is that This fucker had 5 hours of movie. He had 5 hours of movie. Why does it feel like okay, to someone who's read the book, it feels like, how the fuck do you have 5 hours of movie and still include less than what the 2 hour and 20-minute David Lynch movie did? Also, how the fuck, I mean, from the non-book fan version, non-book fan view, in my opinion, how the fuck do you have 5 hours of movie and make some of it seem so slow? Like,
I would
I
say it was mainly to build the atmosphere, except when you see desert already built up
exactly!
in the first movie with enough time to like, you know, take it in, why is there still so much of it in the second one?
You know, I was getting so tired of like, oh, like there would be certain scenes that were gonna come up. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna do this scene in slow motion. And it's gonna take 5 times longer than it needs to. And then, sure enough, the scene comes up, and it's like everyone's reaction, scene of the desert. Oh, also, the first movie did a thing that everyone makes fun of when they go to the. And I know it's not, it's off world, so it's not like it's sci-fi. It's not meant to be the real Middle East. But they did that thing where, like, when they go to the desert, they put the yellow filter over everything. And I'm like, how the fuck are you? The second movie didn't, but the first one did. And I was like, what the fuck? They did the thing. They did the racist thing, and then they even, mind you, it does fit, but they even did it felt like the entire race. They did the filter, and then they had like the Middle Eastern like style music with the singing and
Oh,
everything
they
like
still did
that.
that in the second movie, Manuel.
It just blew my mind. I was like, this is a trope that people make fun of that like Western movies do. It's like, why are you doing it? Like slow pan across the dune, like yellow
We,
filter,
we
mysterious vocals.
have our white savior complex already in this thing. I think when they did that, they were like, "Well, there's no going back. Might as well go for broke."
Okay, to be fair, it's deconstructing that and just showing how terrible it's going to be as soon as that civil war starts.
Yeah, and also to be mildly fair, like the other novels do address that a bit more, and I can only assume that that's also why they changed Chani the way they did. They try to make her like not the native princess type trope, which for the record, I don't think she ever was. Once again, like I don't know if Frank Herbert was like a hippie in his youth, but like there was a lot of like free love type shit going on in that first Dune novel, and like it was very much like sexual freedom, sexual free women. I mean, that's the word I'm trying to find. Like they were just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck Paul over there, and that's what happened. So like, I so I don't think that it was quite the the native princess trope, but like I can only assume that's what they were fighting against, trying to make her so rebellious. And by rebellious, I don't mean like against Paul, because like you should listen to Paul, but rebellious against like the rest of her like people and whatever. But like I don't know. That was also weird. And there was no talk, once again, to say it again, there was no talk of the fundamentalists in the South that they kept bringing up. Like there was a part where Paul's like, and I'm gonna come with the fundamentalists. And I'm like Paul, like why are they adding all this weird like just say you're coming with the Westboro Baptist Church. There you go. Just say it. Just say that's what you're trying to imply here. Like I get what the director's going for. And I get the idea. Like, oh, this is bad, and that is the point. Mind you, the first book doesn't play it like that, but it does later on come to pass that it's like, yeah, that shit shouldn't have happened, especially not the way it did. Um, but I don't know. There was just so much. Did you even feel like you got an idea of what the spice was in the book in the movies?
No,
Thank you.
I just
See,
thought it was. I just thought I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and just think that the only reason that they had to breathe through stuff is because it's all cinnamon. You like breathe in too much cinnamon, you just die. You swallow too much cinnamon, you just die. I'm like, is that it? Is that what the spices are? No,
it's
they're just
funny
a
you
spice.
mentioned. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned because the spice is like I don't know if they ever give it a color in the spice form, but I always imagine it being blue, like the water of life that always did have a color. But it was cinnamon smelling, but the spice was it's most important because it's used for the spacing guild, which by the way, this is all said in the book, and they did not include any of it in the movie, but they use it to fold space to basically like space travel. Because once again, I didn't tell you this, but like, there's no technology in the future. In this future, there's no computers. There's no nothing. Everything is done either through mind power, or everything's done through mind power. Because even the fucking space navigators have to like use the spice, get their psychic powers, and then travel space like that. Um,
Hmm.
and that's the main thing spice is for. It's also used because half of the nobility just take it for fun. They put it in their food, and they get addicted to it. And like, there was all this talk that like when Paul was going to destroy the spice fields, that like half of the fucking house of the Landrad would just drop dead after a few weeks through withdrawals because like so many people are infected or addicted. Also, the eyes of Ibad, the blue within blue eyes that the Fremen have, there are people who have those eyes too. Like, his character exists, but they kind of like cut him out a bit. The Baron has a mentat named Peter de Vries, and he has blue within blue eyes too because he's so addicted to the spice. Like, he takes so much of it that like. I don't know, and I feel like none of that was explained in the movie. Like they're just harvesting this expensive spice. You know, who cares?
I think they explained at least the blue within blue is a result of eating spice because they mention it like when Paul's starts eating spicing stuff,
Yeah,
spiced
the
stuff.
spice. Yeah,
That is also weird that they use the word spicy for that.
And the spice is called melange, by the way, which is a term they never brought up in the movie either. And like I just found it weird that they somehow made spice feel unimportant in the movie where like it literally all revolves around spice. I said this before we went live, but they didn't even use the main line from the fucking books that everyone always says: "The spice must flow." Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It's not this bad, but I'm only mildly exaggerating. I should say I'm only mildly exaggerating when I say that some characters use that as a departure greet. What's the word? A goodbye.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "The spice must flow," and then end the transmission kind of thing. Like, it's very common, and they didn't use it there. Also, "Long live the fighters." I know they included that technically in Fremen, but that was just said in English. And I'm just like, there's a very famous scene where David McLaughlin from the David Lynch one is saying that line, like "Long live the fighters" with this fucking Chris knife and whatever. Oh, they didn't even explain the fucking Chris knives. Did you know why they would cut themselves?
Nope.
Because when they draw a Chris knife, they either have to kill someone or it has to taste blood.
What is it? What
Like,
did Muramasa Smith all of them?
yes, and I found that funny. Like, they showed it, but didn't tell you why. And I'm like, there's little things like that. I'm like, do they just expect people to like know that? Like, who was this made for?
I think that as an audience member that just would see and hear this, I just think too much of it being like, this is what they're thinking religious, like in a
I mean,
religion
it is really.
sense. Not that it's literal, except this is also science fiction. So, like, if you wanted it to be literal, it could be literal. But the way that it made it seem is just simply that, like, okay, religious extremism, it will lead to the end of civilization or be its savior. It's kind of weird. I don't get what the general message is until you explain to me that this is deconstruction of the white savior complex, which I guess is coming in the other parts of it. But yeah, no, I just simply thought that when it was given as a description, it was just simply like, okay, this is just a very important weapon to them. I guess.
Yeah, it's made from a sandworm's tooth, and like once if it doesn't draw blood, they have to cut. It has to draw blood one way or the other, which is why there was that scene when they all drew them, and I'm like, that's out of character. Like they wouldn't. They make a big deal about drawing it. Everyone would have grabbed theirs, but maybe only like Stilgar would have actually drew his. Like nobody else would have. So I'm like, when everyone cut themselves, like, oh come on, like they would have been so upset they all wasted all that water. By the way, no movie has got it right, but I remember even like there was an old Kevin G. Anderson interview where he mentioned it, where he was talking about the miniseries though, about how and they were the only one that kind of tried to keep it. The that no Fremen would ever walk around in the desert with their mouth out. And I get why a movie would have to do that, but it also felt really weird. I'm like, it's trying to be accurate, but whenever it bothered me that whenever like, especially Chani, if Paul did it, whatever, he's a white guy. But like whenever Chani shows up and she's all like, I need to talk, I'm gonna pull my mask down. It's like, girl, no, you would never do that.
Yeah, that was another weird thing because they have the tubes in their nose to get the water that's coming out of there, but a lot of times their mouths are just out, and a lot of water is going out there too.
No, they make it a huge point in the book. It is not an oversight in the book. They're like, the humans lose most of their moisture by breathing, by like through their mouth. So they have to keep that on. They make it a big point about like put it on and keep it on kind of thing, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm like, maybe Paul would have done that in the early on. Jessica would have done that. But like Johnny and Stilgar would not just be like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to you, so I'm gonna pull everything off. Like that makes no sense. But yeah. Anyways, I thought that was weird. There's this weird little lore shit. They added guns and then made their own plot hole about like why didn't the Sardaukar just like why'd they have to fight on land then? Just fucking always stay in your ships and shoot the Fremen.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just weird shit. Also, am I the only one who was fucking let down by the worm design?
It's
I
a
don't know.
worm. I don't know. Were you gonna say what like the joke me and my girlfriend had that looked like a giant booty hole at a certain point in time?
Well, first of all, yes, it was way too much mouth. It looked like
You mean ass to mouth?
yes, it looked like the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi.
Well, wouldn't
It
that
looked
just be a Dune ripoff anyway?
It is, but it still looked like as if the Sarlacc pit got out of the pit, like you know, like it had a body and started moving. Like I was like, what the fuck? By the way, there's a whole discussion about how a lot of Star Wars is just ripped off from Dune, like
Hey,
because the Force. I've talked about this before. Like I talked about this before in relation to Star Wars, not relation to Dune. If you ever watch Empire Strikes Back, you don't know this because we have the whole canon these days. But if you ever watch Empire Strikes Back, I remember watching it for the first time as a kid. I was shocked that Luke was able to pull the lightsaber out of the snow because up until that point, we didn't know Jedi could do that. The only thing Jedi did in the first movie was use the voice and just think and know things, you know, kind of like be mysterious.
extra sensory awareness.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you know, I don't know how to put that, you know, like they had like they were more aware of things and they you know, but they couldn't move things with their mind. So at first, the only things they had was that and the voice. And the voice was
They could choke people.
Darth
Vader just choke out
He
the
did
guy.
choke someone. He did choke someone. He did, but also that was like evil powers. We didn't know that everyone can do that. Anyway, there's a lot of shit that in Desert Planet, there's a lot of like Dune in Star Wars that whether George Lucas will ever admit to it or not, I'm pretty sure like I mean it's changed it up. I'm not saying he plagiarized anything. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he was inspired.
I think he's owned up to all of his inspirations, Manuel. I don't know if he's ever specifically named Dune, but he doesn't act like this sprang completely from his head without any outside influence.
Anyway, that is my Dune thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Anything else on the worms before I change the title?
they look terrible. They look like
The Sarlacc, if it came out of the pit, you said that.
yeah, it looks and the scale always felt a little off in the new movie. Like they did show it, like that everyone rides them, but they felt a little too big to ride in this version of the movie. Like in the book.
So
And
are you telling me that Sandy Cheeks, who rides a worm in SpongeBob, is more book accurate to
probably, yeah.
Dune?
It's like
What?
the worms. I felt like the worms would be too impossible to ride because in the book they describe it. They use a thumper. The worm comes, and I'm not exaggerating. They pretty much do the thing that like they did against like Alexander the Great did. They just step out of its way, like as if it's an oncoming elephant. They just step out of its way, hook onto the side, and because now its side is open, the sand is going in there, so the worm naturally goes in to like put it right side up, and then you steer by like adding other hooks. But like these worms look so big that I'm like And I know it's sci-fi and I'm overthinking it, but like they made a point to explain how like technically easy this was and how like the Fremen figured it out and why weren't other people doing it, because it's like why nobody ever tried to tap the desert like this. But like Fremen kids do this shit. But these worms look so big. I'm like, how the fuck would you step out of that thing's way? It would just eat you. Which is probably why they never showed anyone actually getting on one except for that first time.
Mm.
In the other movies, they show people riding them all the time. They were too much mouth. And honestly, did you get the same feeling I did? I feel like they were embarrassed by the effects because they barely showed them in both movies.
Yeah, I'm getting a very like Steven Spielberg. I don't want to show my shark off too
Yeah,
much because the technology
exactly.
just isn't there.
Like, I don't think I'm pretty sure they didn't show it fully until Paul was writing, and even then it was like close up kind of things. Because before in the first movie it was mainly like a mouth that would come up, like shit like that. I was just like, oh. Also, the fucking popcorn bucket looks fucking stupid, but I still want one. If anybody gets one, give me one. I
Oh my
want
god!
I want my shy halussi or whatever they call it. Because it's a giant butthole. But yes. Anyways, you can just change the worm thing. That's all I had to say. Uh, the, and they do kill the baby worms for the water of life. I like that they showed that. Like I don't think the David Lynch one showed that either. But the baby worm we got to see in in all of its glory. Why
Mm.
couldn't we see an actual worm? I don't know. I imagine something more like the Beetlejuice. I don't know if you ever saw the David Lynch one, but they kind of operated kind of like the Beetlejuice juice worms, where they
Mm.
had like a worm head that opened, whereas the
So
modern
like,
Dune
there's
worm,
another mouth that's.
yeah, like it opens, as in like the modern Dune worm is just a hole. That's the way I'm
Mhm.
trying to explain. They don't have a mouth; they have a hole. It's just like does that just never close? Are they just always eating? Are they fucking like what are those whales called? The whales that just breathe in everything and like it goes through like little mesh they have in their mouth. Are
Oh,
they a fuck?
baleen.
Yeah, they are.
That's the mouth stuff they have.
Yeah, is that what they do? Because I'm just like I don't get it. Like they never close their mouths. It looks like how would they close? They close it with teeth, I guess. But it's just like I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, what else is there? What else is there to bitch about? I have a lot to bitch about, but I'm curious
Is
about.
there anything you really liked about this adaptation?
Oh, like okay, and I know this sounds stupid, and I want to repeat that I already said it, but I know it sounds stupid. I do like what they did with Duncan Idaho character-wise. If only it was someone else doing all the stuff. That was a perfect Duncan Idaho in terms of execution. Perfect. Perfecto. I just don't think that Jason Mamoa is the right person for future Duncan. Like, and I don't know if I should. And by the way, future Duncan should technically be in the next movie if they do it. Oh, speaking of which, what the fuck was up with the sequel baiting in this movie?
I don't know. I don't feel like it did that much, other than well, yeah, we're on the precipice of
Chani
civil
left.
war.
Yeah, Chani left, and they literally start with the war. Like that doesn't like none of that really happens in the book. It kind of ends peacefully. Everyone's like, yeah, falls the emperor. Let's all go to sleep now. But like it literally ends with people going into ships to go fight and kill. And like Connie is just wandering off in the desert, brokenhearted. And I'm like also I forgot how hard the first one sequel baited until I watched it again a couple weeks ago. Like the first one literally says this is just the beginning.
Yeah,
And then it cuts.
which is weird because it's the ending.
It's fucking annoying. I'm like, you have to be fucking kidding me.
I
And I'm
mean,
pretty sure
Manuel, you should have been pretty obvious that they were sequel baiting when they called it part one.
they didn't call it part one when I was going to it. I mean,
Once
they
again,
did when I got there,
on
but they
screen.
were. But that's mad bait and switch. They didn't. The poster didn't say it. The trailer didn't say it. Nothing said it.
Then yeah, you had to be following the news because I knew that.
I think I was trying to stay away from it because I didn't want to like get spoiled with like a clip or two and
You
like
read the books, Manuel.
no, I didn't want to be spoiled by what they didn't do. Because
Uh,
they were gonna leave shit out.
mm-hmm.
that's my big takeaway. I don't mind what they left out, but they made some changes that just were weird, like the Chani shit, and like part of me wonders if they if fucking he edited. Oh, in the first movie, the second movie's not as bad. I could literally get the first movie, put it into like Sony Vegas or the fuck I have, um, and cut that thing down by a half hour, and it would flow a lot better. And I say that about a lot of movies, but this one's especially. There's so many stupid like pan across this shot, you know. I'm like, oh my god. Like, why is it taking 30 seconds to like zoom in on Lado Atreides and Caladan? Also, like, I don't like that they used just real places for like a lot of the locations, like in like Caladan. It just like that just looked like somewhere. That looked like Scotland or something. I don't know where it was. But my point is it looked like somewhere I could visit. I always hate when sci-fi movies do that. Like I mentioned this before, like in Rise of Skywalker, or whichever, whichever,
Last-
the one, no, the one before it, the one where they show Luke's planet where he's on.
Oh yeah, the Last Jedi.
That just looks like a real place, and I'm just like,
You want your sci-fi to be more fantastical, make it more Blade Runner. You know, keep it
yes,
like
I mean, Manuel lives where Blade Runner takes place, though. It's just not. It doesn't look like that yet.
it's just like, what the hell is this? I also found out when I was trying to research that Denis Villeneuve guy, what else he's done. Apparently, he did the new Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That movie sucked.
You seem to be in a very small minority on that one, Manuel.
Well, I also think the original Blade Runner is weird because I don't know which version I like most. Like, I don't think it sucks, but like I have differing opinions on like the literally 5 different versions of it that exist. Because I've seen them all in like as they came out. Like I've seen the one with Harrison Ford doing the narration, which I don't think exists anymore. Um, where he's like doing the deadpan delivery because he didn't want to do it. And it's funny because fucking Harrison Ford is doing deadpan delivery, and I think he's trying to sound bored, but he accidentally sounds like he's trying to do like a film noir thing. You know what I mean?
Honestly,
With
I
all
was
like
expecting him to be doing more of that intentionally, but I
he
haven't seen
was
this version.
supposedly like he's come out on record and say like he tried to make it sound as terrible as he could so that they wouldn't use it. He's like,
wow.
yeah, he's like, and then I went to the bar. But it sounds like he's doing the film noir bit. He's like, you know, like because the film noir thing, they have a very laid back way of talking. It's not like he's just doing that. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Um, oh, speaking of which, Dune has a lot of internal monologue. There's
Okay.
a scene that I feel like they should have included because when Paul kills Jamis at the end of the first movie, um, there's a moment where he kills them and he's very like pumped up, very full of adrenaline, and Jessica walks up to him. And in her head, like this is in the David Lynch movie, but I feel like it's lost because it just makes her seem like an asshole. But like in the book, they explain that Jessica's scared. She's like, okay, Paul just killed a man. I need to bring him back to reality, where he's going to become like worse than Fade Rotha. So she walks up to him, gets right next to his ear, and she's all like, "How does it feel to be a killer?" And I'm surprised they did not include that bit because that would have fit in perfectly with the whole arc they were going for him in the movie. And that was a very important scene because that brought him back down to earth. That he's like, "Oh shit, I killed a man," you know. Uh, like I need to be more careful about things about my choices in life now. Things will never be the same, you know. I don't know if you're saying that kind of tone, but you know, he's thinking these kind of things. I find it funny of all the things they took out. They took out a scene that actually would have led, like, decently went into what they were going for. Also, fun fact: the guy he kills has a wife and kids, and because he
Mhm.
kills them, they become his wife and kids.
I was told about that like when I finished watching the first movie, and I was like anticipating that just because I felt like, well, let's see what this like craziness is gonna be. No, it doesn't even show up.
Yeah, they
None of
become
that.
his wife and kids, and like even though like, and it's funny because like she's fine that she killed her, that he killed her husband, because that's just what happens with Fremen. She's like, oh well, he made his choices, and I think it's implied. It's kind of like one of the the Santa Claus movie, like where the elves don't care that the other Santa didn't come back. I think it's implied that she didn't like Jamis that much because she did not care that he did not come home. Um, but she tries to sleep with Paul, and Paul's like, nah, man, like I'll take care of you and I'll support you, but like we ain't like that. But she does become like Alia's protector, and like she actually is a character. She's in all the books. Like she's the one that keeps like all the other kids. Well, Ollie can take care of herself big time, but she still keeps the other kids from like trying to punk Ollie and shit like that, and like everyone else being mean to her or whatever.
Sorry, you said you used the term punk, and I'm just like now imagining Ashton Kutcher on a rocket swing. You just got punked.
Oh, I mean like push her down or something. But I'm pretty sure they did that. Like Alia would fucking make their head explode or something.
That's funny.
She actually becomes really crazy in like in, like Children of Dune, because minor spoiler alert, but Paul disappears for a while and she becomes like the regent of the empire until the kids come of age, and she does some fuck shit. Yeah, I don't want to spoil that, 'cause there's actually some really good stuff with her character later on. I forgot
I'm
the
starting to see
Baron.
why a lot of people thought this was
Yeah,
unadaptable.
honestly, it really is. Like I said, the overly religious tones, the the weird shit with like the mentats, and like the the, the fact that the J word is all over it. Like the David Lynch movie, you can get away with that. I'm surprised they included it in the miniseries version, because that was a post 9/11 world where that word was being like used for its actual usage amongst some, what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like that word was being used, and they still used it in the miniseries. I'm like, ooh, that stung to hear. Like as a kid in 2002 or like 3 or whatever year that came out, I was all like, oof, big time. Uh, it's funny because I'd mentioned this before, but like I was actually gonna watch Dune 2 on an illegal site. I didn't, but I was going to. And don't cut this out, JD, because there's a point where I'm bringing this up. So when I was looking it up in advance to see if I could watch it on the illegal site, if they even had it, they did. But they also had like 3 mockbuster Dune movies that I really want to see. Like, how those can't be good. There's one called like Dune Worm, and it's like you know what I'm trying to say. It's like one of those cheap movies that would end up in a blockbuster bin or something like that,
Hmm.
back in the day. And I'm
Now they
just
just
like,
probably air on Sci-Fi.
exactly. Now it's made for TV shit, and it's or probably like it's going straight to streaming. Now it's a money laundering scheme. Allegedly. Don't sue me. Don't sue me, Asylum Pictures. I'm pretty sure it's Asylum. They do most of that shit. But yeah, I don't know. I, honestly, it wasn't a bad movie. I hate what they did with a lot of shit. I was disappointed though. Like, for all the shit I talked about the first one when it came out, it wasn't a bad movie. It had pacing issues. It took way too long to do anything, and the story felt very stilted. Like, I imagine as a viewer, like you guys, did you guys even know who Dr. Yue was, the guy who betrayed them?
I assume that
Uh,
that was just a random doctor that they had.
See, that's the whole thing. Like, they knew they had a spy, that the Atreides did,
mhm.
and the doctor, they never suspected him, because in this universe they have a thing called the Sook doctors. These doctors are trained to never, ever, ever betray their benefactor. They have this conditioning. And you might be like, why is that? It's obvious, because you don't want your physician in this fucking pseudo medieval style like world. You don't want your physician to ever be bribed. You know,
Hmm.
that fucker just shoot you up with poison one night. So there's no way that he could ever betray us, because it goes against the conditioning. And somehow through kidnapping his wife, and by like torturing him or something, the Harkonnens managed to break the conditioning, and all that's left out. So now we just have a random ass traitor for no reason.
I don't know if I spelled it correctly.
Yue, it's
No,
Y.
no, Sook.
Oh, SUK.
Oh, okay, cool. I did spell it right. because I was making a joke because when my sister and I were driving back from the theater earlier today, she was like, "I deserve an award for having restraint for not making a Atreides nuts joke," and so I was adding Sook onto that. Sook Atreides
Atreides.
nuts.
When I remember when I was a kid, um, the Dune prequels were just coming out. The novels, the Dune prequels were just coming out, and I had read Dune previously, like in elementary school. Yeah, I read it really young. I'm a nerd,
Yeah.
but when I had seen them around middle schoolish, and I remember going into a CVS or it was a market, and I think it was actually an Albertsons. I went to an Albertsons. They had it like in their little like magazine section that places used to have, and I was like, "What the fuck? There's a new Dune novel," and it was Dune, House Atreides. And I remember the friend I was with. This is not really that funny of a joke, but it always stuck in my head all these years later. The friend of mine I was with, he's like, "Isn't that the guy from Neverending Story?" Yes,
Trey, you.
he thought Trey it was a trade. I just remember I just remember he said that. I was like, "What the fuck?" And mind you, at the time, both of those are some of my favorite things, and I was like, "No, that is not. This is not Dune House Atreides." I think well, can't prosecute me now, Albertsons. I think I stole that book, like then and there. Like I literally just like put it in my pocket and left. Wait, what'd you say, Josh? I did
Oh, sorry. The statute of what's it called? Statute of
li-
limitations hasn't
limitations
passed.
on theft. On the theft, I think it's only like 5 years or a year or something like that. So yes, and I was a kid. I don't think Albertsons exists as the same company. It's been like bought like 3 times over. Um, real fast before I forget, I gotta eat sand because I promised that I wasn't that Dune 2 wasn't gonna get made, and it did.
Yeah.
A- And I
Do it,
did
Manuel.
order. Hmm?
Do it.
Yeah, and I did order real sand, not real sand, but I did order a better sand. But yeah, this is what I have to do.
What sand is that?
Mm, hold on.
Oh, he's in pain. Oh, stop, dude.
Oh, that's strong. No, it's just it's fun dip, but a lot of fun dip.
A lot of fun dip.
Manuel, show it to the screen so everyone can see it.
It actually
Yeah,
does look
close the
pretty.
little.
It does look pretty nicely colored on this
Yeah.
lighting. It looks really red in person, though. Anyways, I'm gonna have another bite. I'll
Now I
finish
have to
most of
dig
this.
out that old clip and combine it with this into this week's short.
The problem is, you're meant to eat this with this,
Yeah.
and when you take a spoonful of it, it becomes really compact, almost like
Mhm.
cinnamon.
Yeah.
But mind you, I'm not gonna choke on that because like I'm not coughing and sneezing. But it does feel. I'm glad I'm using it with a spoon this big. If I had this any other way, I probably would be in fear of choking. Imagine
Mhm.
that. But anyways, yes, I was wrong. Denny V.
Yeah.
Mhm. Anyways, mm. Ooh, that's enough of that. I'm not gonna feel good later on. I'm actually, I'm actually not a fan of sweet things. And now that I'm doing that, I probably should just eat real sand. I actually did look it up. The sand you get that you put into a sandbox, it's non-toxic. I guess they assume kids are gonna eat it. And the only reason I didn't buy that is because they only sell it in really giant bags, and I was not gonna spend like $20 on a giant bag of sand to eat a handful of it. I should have did that, then returned it to Amazon and been like, didn't
This
taste
sand
good.
tastes terrible.
But I almost did that, and because I'm like, can you eat that sand? And obviously, you're not supposed to, and maybe that would have caused other problems, digestion. But it technically is non-toxic. Ooh, that was terrible. I gotta eat my hat still,
Yeah.
but that movie hasn't come out yet, so I
Yeah.
got some time. I got time.
Yet time before the Toxic Avenger comes out.
Oh, my tongue really hurts now. Like it feels really sandy. Like I feel like I rubbed too much shit on. Wait, that sounds weird.
I'm gonna have so much fun editing this one, Manuel.
I rubbed too much like rough things on my tongue. It feels weird now. Anyways,
Yeah.
Let's wrap. Let's wrap it up, Manuel.
any closing words on Dune? Like that was pretty much my thing. My take is that like the first movie was it was good. I think it was a good movie. I think it was a okay, I think it was a great movie. I don't think it was like that amazing, but it was a great movie, a good adaptation. It had some moments that I felt didn't work that well because of pacing, but I liked it. Part two, on the other hand, I feel like they went the Marvel route. It felt big and dumb, so I didn't hate it, but it was no longer a good adaptation. And I honestly don't think it was that good of a movie. It's like it's the kind of movie that you ignore stuff because it's big and dumb. Does that make sense? And that's my view. That's my honest takeaway.
I feel that it's a good movie. I feel well, both parts I feel are good. The score is great. I really do like the sets. However, I do genuinely feel that you can cut it down. I'm not sure if you could cut it
Oh
down
yeah,
to one movie necessarily.
you can
I
cut
would
it down
say
to
that'd
a
be
3 hour movie. I think.
like make it just an Oppenheimer length. Like make it just a
Yeah.
3-hour movie. See what you could work with. It just really depends because there's so much extra lore that like I can agree there are parts that are stretched out, but then there are other parts or bits in what's stretched out that it kind of feels like it's still kind of important. So I'm not sure. I would just say like to shorten it. Definitely would say that it can be shortened. I just don't know what I would have to do so that way because there's so much
Well, the first
information.
movie could have been under 2 hours. I mean, not like much, but the first movie definitely could have been like a nice tight 2 hour movie. The second one, maybe another 2 hours. I admit it would be a hard cut to make it one movie, but there was a lot of pointless fluff in the first one where I'm like, oh my god.
Just do what the Japanese movies do with the animes, and they'll like take a whole season and condense it into like a movie form.
the
And
fucking
it's
the fucking Madoka Magica movies that pissed me off.
yeah.
No,
Because you don't really get new content until the second movie. So
I'm gonna rant about this real fast. I fucking watched the entire first movie and was thought I was tripping. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, I know that anime movies can like condense the plot. I was expecting that. The first Monica movie does not condense the plot. It literally uses the same animation. That was the issue. Like I even like it got to the point when I had to pull up the episodes and I'm like, hold on a second. This is the same like framing. And I pulled it up and I'm like, it's not only the same framing, it's the same exact shit. Like I felt so baited. I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me. Like this is so lazy. Like at least make a new movie. Like as a new animation. Like who
well,
was the fuck?
eventually you got the new movie.
Well, yeah, eventually it did. But I'm like, who the fuck were those movies for?
People who hadn't seen the anime.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Evangelion movies. Before the what's it called? Before the what are they called?
Oh, the
Re
rebuild movies.
There you go.
Yeah, before those, there actually was a condensed version of the anime also that came in movie form, and that only exists so that you could be kind of up to date before you watch the end of Evangelion,
Hmm.
which kind of exists as the end of Evangelion until you get to the last rebuild, and then that's a different can of worms.
Yeah,
But
we've already
like,
talked this can of worms.
Yeah, I think we had an episode on Evangelion ish.
Yes, it was you and Warren saying Evangelion is overrated, and me trying to defend it to my
Oh
very
yeah,
best against
I
you
remember
two.
that. Well, that's topic for another day. But I still stand on that hill, and I also have to say that even
And
though
you
I
also said in your hill that Evangelion is a very great series, which is
I think
very
in terms
weird, like
of,
dichotomy.
I think what serves as probably the best example of that Manuel can give in terms of a positive situation where you get the anime in a condensed form, but it's also more, is the second, because it's more about that second part, but the second movie of what's it called, Gurren Lagann.
oh
Oh
I
yeah,
thought you
because they
just
add on even more at the end, make the final fight even better.
They add to the fights, they condense enough of the other scenes so the flow is pretty good. There's literally like in addition, it's really funny because when I saw the movie first before I saw the anime, and when I see the anime, I just kind of feel like the second half I'm like this just kind of feels like it drags on. I feel that the first anime does no justice to the buildup you have with Amina. I really feel like it's better if you watch the anime in terms of like the first like 17 or like 16 episodes, and then just skip to like for the whole second part, just watch the movie, especially because that last attack looks so much better in the what's it called, in the movie. Like, it honestly feels like there's something missing when you watch the anime, and then when you're like there, it feels like, oh, this fits perfectly here.
Okay, let's
Well, on
actually
that
wrap up
note,
this show.
yeah, hopefully Dune 3 comes out soon.
Are
I'm
you
excited to see it is the wrong term, but I'm interested to see it.
okay, man? Do you want to place any bets on whether it comes out or not? And do you want to place a time frame for that? Or have you learned your
Yes.
lesson?
Yes. It's no, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that. It's definitely coming. I'm not stupid. It's definitely coming, and I guess the only bet would be when. And honestly, that doesn't matter. It'll come eventually. I say 3 years, but like I also not gonna like bet my my tongue on that again. Anyway, yeah, tomorrow's more Breath of Fire 3, Friday's Drink Talk Roll, and I think we'll be on a mild semi-ish hiatus. Not next week, but the week after that. We're starting after next GPZ, I think. So just because of cons, and then we'll be back in April. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll be back on April 2nd with our vigil for Funimation's death.
Oh yes. So shout out to Ed, our current patron, patreon.com/CJ Connections, and thank y'all for watching. Any views on Dune, put it below, and I promise you, I will argue them. I promise you. If anyone says something about Dune, I will go off in the comments. I promise. I promise. That's it. Peace out. Love you. Good night.
Good night.